Before we hit the road on today's discussion, I want to express our sincere gratitude to our sponsors. Without their support, this podcast wouldn't be possible. So, a big shout out to our investors, Advanced Training Systems, Averett, Forward Air, Walmart, XPO Logistics, and the National Transportation Institute. Thank you for your commitment in advancing the trucking community. So, buckle up and get ready for an insightful journey into all things next gen trucking, your road to the future. Hey, this is Lindsey with NGT Talks Gen Z. And this is our new focus on having Gen Zers who are in the trucking industry to come and talk to us about how they got into the trucking industry, why they did, and what they like about it. So today I'm really excited to have Elise with Alaska West Express. And Elise and I met in person. We met at the National Tank Truck Carriers Association in Charlotte. She had a long ways to go from Alaska to Charlotte. So we are really excited to have you on the show today, Elise.
Thank you, Lindsey. Appreciate it.
So I wanted to ask, what is your story? How did you get into the trucking industry?
Yeah, it definitely was not something that I sought out. I just fell into it, I would say. I did kind of get into transportation through aviation, and specifically, I worked at an airport. And I fell in love doing that because I was doing environmental compliance, for the airport. Um, and it's just a different world. So I feel like I'm kind of coming full circle by working at a trucking company. Um, and I love it because it's something different every day. And that's what I thrive off of. So I can't just stay stagnant and doing one thing. Otherwise I would just get extremely bored. So I'd say that's what I love most about working for transportation in general, but definitely specifically trucking. It's a whole new beast, I'd say.
Yeah, if you like to have a lot of balls up in the air and just managing lots of different things, and trucking is maybe a good option for you because there's
Yeah,
lots of
definitely.
things that go along with it. So, you live in Alaska now. Are you originally from Alaska?
I'm not originally from Alaska, but I have lived here off and on most of my life. So I grew up here and I came back to Alaska about 4 years ago, and it was probably the best decision of my life. So,
I mean, it's fascinating as somebody who's never
yeah,
been to Alaska, but I think that people just love it, right?
yeah, it's beautiful, and it's also where I've built a career. And so I'm just to have Alaska as your backyard is also it's fun. And yeah.
Did you go to college?
Yes, I did. I did go to college out of state, um, and I got my bachelor's degree in ecology, which is
Okay.
practically environmental studies. And so I did a lot of research on the coast, was kind of in that world of, um, yeah, performing both field and lab research. And it was a very how do I put it? It was very daunting because of the things that you research. It's like kind of overwhelming what comes of it. And so I remember specifically thinking, like, oh man, I don't think I could just do this where I'm putting out these papers that maybe fall on deaf ears. Maybe it changes policy, but maybe not. And so being on the side where I'm actually helping companies navigate environmental compliance, I do feel like I'm playing more of an active role.
That's so interesting, because one thing I do know is that Gen Z, they care about the environment,
Yeah.
and it's important, right? So how does your job help the environment? You work
I
for a tank truck carrier. What do you all haul, and how does it impact the environment?
Yeah, well, we definitely haul a lot of hazardous chemicals, and so it's very important that we're doing so in a responsible way. Whether that's really promoting driver safety and trying to prevent any kind of accidents on the road. But that also means that there's certain things in place, even on site, that I deal with on a daily basis, whether that's, checking our stormwater to make sure that everything's good there. And usually that's because I'm looking at, well, what are we storing on site? Are
Mhm.
we storing it properly to make sure that we're not allowing any kind of release to happen? And so it's definitely a wide range of things that I look at to make sure, like, okay, are we doing what we're supposed to be doing? And then can we do better? Can we go above and beyond? But yeah, dealing with chemicals, whether they're hazardous or non-hazardous in general, it's limiting and really trying to prevent liability and help keep, you know, the environment safe, really. And a lot of people too don't realize that when we're focusing on preventing releases in the environment, we're really focusing on public health in
Mm,
the end.
yeah,
That's the goal. So,
absolutely. And so what is your title?
well, so I work in the HSSE department, which is the Health, Safety, Security, and Environmental. I was
Okay.
hired on as an environmental specialist, but I've definitely been taking on different roles that I feel like I'm more so an HSSE specialist, like my coworkers that I work with. So,
That is, it's actually so interesting because I didn't realize how much environmental factors played into a company even having that as a role,
yeah,
which I think is going to be very attractive to somebody in Gen Z, a younger person, right?
yeah,
So, do most tank truck companies have environmental specialists and have jobs like yours?
that's a good question. I don't think so. I think just I believe that most companies have probably relied on consultants
Okay,
and not really hired in somebody in house. And if there is somebody fulfilling that role, it's probably somebody like Tyler, where and they're probably like a one person show, so they don't have a
gotcha.
whole team. And we're
They do
unique in
everything.
yeah, yep. And I will say that's probably one of the main reasons why I was hired on is because environmental is a whole nother language outside of safety, right? So there's a whole set and subset of regulations. And so it can be a lot to focus on all of the, requirements, compliance requirements for the industry. And so having help in that area can definitely, and a new set of eyes too, definitely shed light on things that maybe we weren't doing that we need to do. And I definitely think that it's necessary to have somebody in that position thinking of those different areas in the trucking industry. So
Yeah, absolutely. Could you see other types of trucking companies have a position like yours, or is it more aligning with like a tank truck hauler?
I definitely think that there is room for a position. It doesn't have to be, specific to tank truck carriers, right? Um, I think if you have a facility in general, there's a lot that goes into that, whether it's a maintenance facility or even just a terminal that you park at. Something that I'm always looking at and checking is, okay, are there leaking equipment, with duck ponds? And it's a whole scope of things that I think an environmental position looks at differently than just safety. So I do think there's room for that.
So when you graduated from college, you went and you kind of worked in the aviation space. How did you get your current job in trucking?
Yeah, so Alaska West is a little bit different. So, like I said, they have a whole HSSC department, and then they also have a training center. And so mm, I found Alaska West through the training center. So I did a HAZWOPER class, which is just
Uh-huh.
hazardous waste operations, and I also did a method of instructions course through the training center here, which is where I work now. And so that's how I met Tyler, my supervisor, and he uh, kind of pitched it to me, I would say, that there was need for an environmental specialist here for Alaska West. So I said, that's interesting. Well, uh, send me the application. I'll look at it and see, if this is something that I want to get into. I mean, I knew once I entered transportation that I would like to kind of look at these different avenues of the industry to gain more experience. I never knew that it would be trucking though. Maybe railroad or somewhere else. But we, like I said, Alaska West is unique in the sense that it touches all of those aspects. So we also have sister companies that deal with the airspace, and so they've had questions that I've
Hmm.
worked on with. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I definitely think working here is has exposed me to all those different areas, and it's come full circle, like I said before.
Yeah. So, a typical day for you, what does that look like?
Well, it's probably different every day, but I think it could be responding to minor spills on site. Um, it could be doing personal monitoring to sample for contaminant thresholds,
Hmm.
exposures. So doing exposure assessments. It's really hard to hone down. I mean, I could be looking at our outfalls for um, stormwater pollution, um, looking at any of our tanks, inspecting our tanks to make sure that they're all intact and not leaking, or have any kind of faults. So yeah,
Yeah, when we
it's
got on the
different.
phone call today, you said, "I'm really busy because you." Why are you all busy right now? It's fascinating to somebody that's not in Alaska.
Yeah, right now, a lot of what we're doing, we ramp up our transport to the North Slope. And so our biggest customer is oil and gas. And we do support mining as well, but we just ramp up the delivery during this season. And yeah,
What's the
it's
North
just,
Slope?
oh, Prudhoe Bay. So
Okay.
that's literally
is it
as
a far ways
far,
away?
yeah, I think it's about like a 12-hour drive from what the guys have told me. It's about a 12-hour drive from Fairbanks to Prudhoe Bay. And
Wow.
so
So
we
it's
haul
like
all kinds of
way up north.
chemicals. Yeah.
Is that where
Yes.
the ice road comes into play?
Yes, it does. Yep.
Okay. So you all haul on the ice road?
Yes, we do. I think we have it just depends on when they put the ice road up, and where we're going as well. But something else that we do that is unique to Alaska West is we also deliver freight on the North Slope to village communities that don't have access to the road. And
Oh,
we do that through using piston bullies. Actually like the snowcats that groom ski trails. So we use those. It has little pressure, PSI. So that's really good on the tundra because we don't want to damage the tundra. Because we travel like hundreds of miles across the tundra to deliver freight. So that's a pretty big project, or I guess program within itself. That's seasonal, and I've been dealing with that now. And there's a whole lot of environmental permits that go into that. So
wow. But you all are supplying villages with all of their supplies for the winter.
yes, it could be building materials, equipment. In the past, we have also supported environmental projects, so environmental remediation projects in the villages, which to me, that's like key, but
Right.
um, getting freight to the villages is very important. And with the piston buoys, it's typically a lower cost than flying it in. So it provides
Mm.
that additional option for the villages.
Well, that has to make you feel so good
Yeah,
that you're like
yeah.
a part of something so much bigger.
Yeah, I definitely it's one of my favorite programs, even though it can be overwhelming because there's a lot of reporting that goes into it and keeping up with, how much freight we're delivering and where. And And also too, the guys, the operators are responsible for reporting wildlife encounters. So
Wow,
it's a lot.
interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so tell me, like, what do you like about the trucking industry? What do you like about your job?
I honestly would say the people. The
Yeah.
people, I mean, I have met some really down to earth people, and going to Tank Truck Week where I met you, everyone was just so happy to meet me. I've never had that before, and they're not at, a big conference where people, you meet somebody and you don't really remember their name. Like, I met people that I remembered their names, and they remembered me, and so that was very important to me. Even going somewhere for a national conference, I still felt like it was a family.
Yeah.
So that's pretty unique to the trucking industry, and that's what I love. And I find that here too at Alaska West, we are one big family. So I have just gravitated toward it.
Yeah, I agree. I think the trucking industry is very like we know each other, we
Yeah,
have the same goals, and it's just a great industry to be a part of.
yeah,
It's unique, I would say.
yeah. And I think a lot of younger people don't know that there are options within the trucking industry outside of just being a driver.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of opportunities, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone, you know, that I would be mentoring. So,
Yeah. So what do you see for your future hopes and dreams?
so are you talking about like within trucking
Yeah, within
or at Alaska?
trucking. Yeah, with
Yeah.
your job. I mean, is there room for growth in what you're doing?
Yes, I think that's the most important thing is in the past, I've had jobs where there wasn't a whole lot of room for growth, but here they're always training. We're always um, uh,
Mhm.
professional training, which is very important to me. And so, like I mentioned previously, I've been kind of fulfilling other roles. Um, so one of the things I've been doing is industrial hygiene, and that's something very new to me. That's a new space, but it really
Mhm.
fits right in with the environmental side of what I do. Um, and I love it. And yes, there is room for growth, and yeah.
What is industrial hygiene?
Oh, well, basically, it is you are evaluating um, exposure. So you're evaluating the worker exposure, um, yeah, in the workplace.
Okay. For the worker.
Yes, it is. It is for the worker. So you're looking at the environment of the worker, and there's typically a lot of sampling that. So it could be assessing noise. It could be assessing exposure to chemicals, um, and then also other physical stressors like heat or cold. And so there is a governing body that puts out like thresholds for companies to abide by. Um, and so one of the things that we've been doing is assessing like respirable silica in the workplace. And so there's a lot of monitoring that goes into that, a lot of personal sampling where workers have to wear pumps, and then they wear like a little sampler that draws air through. And so what we're trying to do is capture the dust that comes through and then analyze it for silica. So
Wow.
that's just one thing that we've been working on.
Yeah. Is that because you haul a certain material?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, a lot of the sand that we haul could have contain silica, and so we want to make sure that when our employees are handling the sand, they are protected, and we're evaluating what they're exposed to and making sure that we are putting measures into place and implementing controls so that it prevents you know disease and health concerns.
It sounds like Alaska West Express has really taken a responsibility to make your working environment better, to make it healthy for your employees,
Yeah.
and really to help the environment.
I have to say, I am partial to Alaska West, obviously. Um, but as far as that's concerned, we have, from my experience, this company has done the most. I'll say that. Um, Compared to past companies that I've worked for. I didn't even know this world existed.
Mhm.
Yeah, you always hear about safety and, oh, don't do that. Don't get in a 6-foot hole without this or that.
Yeah.
You hear about fall protection, um, but all the different elements that we look at and we evaluate and make sure that our employees are safe. It's unique, I'll say that, and definitely comprehensive too. So it's been eye-opening too, listening to other people talk
Mhm.
about their work environment and the
Mhm.
things that they're exposed to, and I'm like, that's that's bad.
Yeah.
Your employer should be changing that situation. So
Absolutely. More employers need to hire people like you to come and make things better.
yeah, yeah, very enlightening when you have people come in who look at and evaluate those things specifically, um, and tell you, oh, you're doing things wrong, or we're doing things wrong, and we should be doing this instead. So it's
Yeah,
very important.
absolutely. It's so important. So, do you have any advice, or what would your advice be to a young person that maybe they're majoring in ecology? What would your advice be for that person?
I would say to not limit yourself. There's lots of options in the industry that your only route is not, you don't have one route. It's not just research, and it's not just working on the regulatory side, because I thought that was where I was going to end up as well. There's a lot of companies in the industry, whether it's transportation or something else, that need help. And so, even in the corporate level, people are looking at environmental social governance, so reporting on metrics, and what they're doing in the environmental space, and how they're operating in a sustainable way. So there's lots of options out there, and I have to say trucking has been one of the best experiences that I've had, where I can put my skills to use and know that
Yeah.
I'm doing something that matters, both for like our community here in Fairbanks, but also, for our employees, and then wherever we go. So
Absolutely. And so, what would you say to a young person as to why they should consider the trucking industry?
I think the family aspect. So you're going to be taken care of. People are going to look after you, and there's so much space to grow. So um, even if you decide, oh, um, I want to get into something different, I want to, maybe you start off environmental, you want to go HR. There's a lot of both vertical and horizontal movement within the trucking industry, and it opens doors. So I think
Absolutely.
that's one of the most important things, and you will gain a lot of experience.
Yeah,
That's for
I
sure.
feel like you've learned so much.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, being here for a little over a year now, and I still feel like I haven't even scratched the surface, right? Like there's still a lot more to learn, and I'm
Well,
definitely looking forward to it.
we're really happy to have you in the industry and just
Thanks,
know
Lindsay.
all the great things you're going to do throughout your career. And you get to
Yeah,
work with Tyler. So there you have
yeah,
that.
he's amazing. Yeah,
So
yep,
it's fun.
yeah.
So, well, hopefully someday I'll get to come out to Alaska and see you all. And we just appreciate you. We especially love having young women in our industry that are making an impact, and we know are going to continue. So
Yeah,
thank you so much for being on Next Gen Talks today. And we want to continue at Next Gen to thank our sponsors for making this happen. So thank you to Advanced Training Systems, and thank you to XPO for sponsoring our podcast and making it happen. And thank you so much, Elise, for being on the show today.
thanks, Lindsay. I really appreciate you.